Please be seated. Good evening, parents, significant others, loved ones, and friends. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 41st Annual Graduation and Investiture Ceremony for the Marshall University Jones C. Edwards School of Medicine. This afternoon, we celebrate the class of 2021. On stage with us tonight is Dr. Jerome Gilbert, President of Marshall University, and other honored guests who will be introduced as we go forward. Dean Joseph Shapiro sends his deepest regrets that a personal family issue has prevented him from being here with us this afternoon. I will take a moment to do some housekeeping. We have been asked to remind everyone in the building that you need to keep your mask on. The only exceptions are the people speaking at the mic and the students as they come across the stage to have their picture taken, okay? Also want to take a moment to recognize the faculty, some of whom are in the back of the floor here. They have worked really hard and tirelessly this past year during the pandemic to make sure these students were able to complete their training and get to this point. So they deserve a round of applause as well. It is now my pleasure to invite to the microphone the president of the class of 2021, Mr. David Bartlett. And he will provide some opening remarks for his classmates.
Good evening and welcome. This graduation and investiture marks the closing of one chapter in our lives and marks the beginning of a new. A chapter that began with a call from Cindy Warren informing us that we had been accepted into the Jones C. Edwards School of Medicine and inviting us to choose Marshall as our destination for the next 4 years, and ends with us walking across the stage here tonight as one of, if not the most decorated and distinguished classes to ever pass through this institution. As I reminisced on my 4 years as a medical student here at Marshall and was thinking about what I wanted to share with you all, our experiences in our school, there's always one thing that came to mind. Something that I truly believe sets our school apart from others and something that is instilled into us during our time here that sets us up for success moving forward. That is the family atmosphere and the culture that both our faculty and our students work to foster in every interaction. I believe that this culture is a combination of the students that Marshall recruits and the faculty members that they hire to educate us. Everyone here, from the top to the bottom, are genuine in their pursuits and lift each other up at every opportunity. All medical schools can boast that they can get you through 4 years and help you pass your boards and then send you off to residency. And while Marshall can certainly boast this, this is not the mission. I'm going to paraphrase something that I've heard Dean Shapiro say countless times in leadership meetings over my last 4 years. He would say, "We are not here to make you good test takers. We do want you to do well, but the fact of the matter is that we are training you to become doctors. And doctors take care of patients, not take tests." Based on the overwhelming number of our graduates that go on to become chief residents, leaders in their residency program in their field, I would say that we are doing a pretty good job of that, and I expect our class will continue this theme. So as I take you all down memory lane and what life has been like over these last 4 years, I want you to keep in mind, as I brag about you, how talented this class is and how accomplished we are. I want you to remember that although this class is beyond gifted and among the smartest people that I've ever met, it is not our intelligence that has allowed us to thrive for these last 4 years. And it is not our intelligence that will make us successful physicians. It is our realization of the opportunity that has been bestowed upon us. It is our compassion, commitment, and dedication to serve, to heal our patients, to improve our community, and to lift up and brighten the days of all those we encounter. Before we go down memory lane, I would like to take the opportunity to recognize everyone in the audience. Among us are family, friends, and faculty members. When you think about it, this celebration is not just about us as graduates, but collectively a celebration of all of us here this evening. For each of you, has had a tremendous impact on our lives, and it played a key role in shaping us into the people that we are today. To our family and friends, I hope that each of you know how thankful we are for everything that you have sacrificed, everything you have done to help us get to this monumental milestone. We will be forever grateful. To the faculty members that have shaped us over the last 4 years, thank you. Thank you for seeing our potential, and thanking you for helping us realize it. Thank you for teaching us not just about the practice of medicine, but also for teaching us how to be doctors. I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. Doug Phillips for delivering the keynote speech this evening. Dr. Phillips, our class has a gift for you, which Dr. Miller will present to you later. I'd also like to thank Dr. Adrian Mays for serving as our honorary hooder tonight. For the class, I offer you a trip down memory lane over the last 4 years. For those of you who are unfamiliar with our curriculum, I will shine light on the endless struggle that is medical education. And for those of you that were on the receiving end of those calls home when we were ready to throw in the towel because it was too hard to continue, we thank you again for talking us off those ledges. For what we once thought were impossible obstacles, we later realized were opportunities for personal growth, opportunities to push harder than we thought possible, and experiences that would define our journey. I recall vividly our orientation first year. Well, I mainly remember that I had hair and the false expectations that I was going to do anything other than eat, breathe, and sleep medicine for the next 4 years. As we began our coursework, we were certainly in for a rude awakening. They say the speed and volume of which information is taught in medical school is like drinking from a fire hose. Well, whoever said that is a liar. It's more like drinking from a fire hose while riding a bike with no hands in rush hour traffic through Manhattan while reciting the alphabet backwards. And that's just a light Tuesday without anatomy and histology lab. Throughout our first year, we were charged with learning the anatomic structure and physiologic functions for every organ system in the human body. And although it was a lot and it was fast, the beautiful thing about our first year was learning how each anatomic structure had evolved to carry out a particular function, and that every single cell in our bodies started out the same and had the capacity to differentiate into every single specialized cell that allows us to be what we are, who we are. In our second year, we learned what a delicate balance this all is, that these structures and the functions they carry out in their cellular ecosystems, while resilient, are at the same time fragile. Through the loss of this balance, we learned how disease processes form, how they present, and how to treat them. The culmination of these first 2 years ended us with us sitting for our first national board exam, the dreaded Step 1. We killed it, in case you were wondering. Well, not me personally, but a couple of classmates I know, yeah, they killed it. Armed with 2 years of medical knowledge, we headed to the hospital third year for our clinical education. It didn't take us long to realize just how clueless we really were, between fumbling over patient presentations, missing key physical exam findings, and our immediate deer-in-the-headlights response to what is your assessment and plan of this patient. Asking me? I have to tell you though, getting put on the spot in front of a bunch of your peers sure is a good way to get you to remember things. Eventually, we settled in, we found our rhythm, and we remembered why it was that we had worked so hard our entire lives to go into this profession. In all, we rotated through 7 core specialties, and while it would be impossible for me to chronicle the vast experiences we gained while rotating through these specialties, I can tell you that while we learned transcranial magnetic stimulation as a new and promising way to treat depression on our psychiatry rotation, we also learned it's a pretty cool tool to use to stimulate the motor cortex of our classmates and make their fingers twitch. On neurology, we learned that Botox can be used in the treatment of chronic migraine sufferers. We also learned that there's not a single person alive that can match the speed at which Dr. Ferguson is able to inject all 31 needles, totaling 155 units of Botox, into his patients. And yes, I would be willing to bet money on that. In OBGYN, we learned about the miracle of childbirth, and because of that, we also know why the OBs wear those shoe covers that go all the way up to their knees, and not just the ones that cover your shoes. On our peds rotation, we learned that kids probably are the most resilient population that we care for. They really are so much stronger than us adults. In family medicine, we learned that being a doctor is about being present in our patients' lives, and more than that, more than just caring for their ailments. internal medicine taught us all aspects of hospital medicine and introduced us to various subspecialties. In surgery, we saw inside a living human for the first time. We also learned that it is indeed possible to take 20 minutes to suture a 5mm incision from the trocar, only to be told that it was incorrect and we needed to redo it. Through it all, we finished the year with a wealth of new experiences and even more knowledge, ready to tackle our second national board exam, Step 2. We killed it again. Well, not me personally, but you know the story. Fourth year, finally, kings of the castle, controlling our own destiny and determining our specialty of choice, and of course, helping the newly minted third years find the restrooms in the hospital. After navigating a virtual interview season, we finally arrived at the day that all medical students dream, match day. The day that everyone finds out where they will be spending the next several years training in their chosen specialties. You guys are starting to pick up on the theme, right? We killed it. Our class matched with an unprecedented 100% match rate, meaning that every single member of our class has a job starting this summer. This feat is unprecedented not just at Marshall, but nationally. Of those, I'd like to take a moment to give special recognition to 4 of our classmates who entered the military match and have decided to serve our country in the armed forces. Megan Carter and Callie Seaman of the United States Navy, and Nicholas Lehman and David Mounts of the United States Army. I'd also like to say thank you to David Mounts and to Timothy Atkins for their previous 10 years serving our country. Overall, our class matched into 16 different specialties spanning the entire country. While I've shared the structure and provided some insight into what life has been like through each of the 4 years, I've yet to tell you many of our class's academic pursuits and neglected to mention what happened in the time that passed outside of the classroom. As I said earlier, though, our class is immensely gifted, but it has not been the intelligence of our class that has had the biggest impact on me. It has been the profound sense of dedication to serving others. As a class, we have completed 6,953 hours of community service. We've had numerous students publish research, some of which presented at national meetings that contribute to moving medicine forward. We had students sit on national societies advocating for healthcare policy and societies that work towards the advancement of academic medicine. Our class interviewed with several members of the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, or LCME, during their site visit. For those of you who don't know, the LCME is the accrediting body for all medical schools. Not only did we pass, we received 8 more years of full accreditation, the longest period that a school can receive. As you're well aware, the cost of medical education is a great burden of student debt that can be crippling for young physicians coming out of medical school. I'm happy to announce that our class will be leaving behind a $25,000 endowment, one of the largest ever by a graduating class, which we have dedicated in memory of the late Dr. Laura Richardson. The scholarship will be given to an incoming first-year medical student with the hope that this will help set an example of the importance of scholarship and giving back, and will encourage future classes to follow in our footsteps. Outside of medicine, our class was just as illustrious. It really is hard to believe through all of this that we managed so many post-exam basketball games and Frisbee Fridays and spending time at the Union Pub and Grill for Med School Mondays, on Wednesdays for trivia night, and also on Fridays for quarters. Between Halloween parties and med school prom, our class has grown so close and made memories that will last a lifetime. We have been there as our classmates got engaged, married, and even grew our Marshall family. As we spread out across the country this summer, I hope that we'll remember our time here fondly. I wish each of you nothing but success. It has been an honor to serve as your class president, and thank you so much for this opportunity and for entrusting me to represent our class. With that being said, I would also like to acknowledge our other class officers, Vice President Hannah Datz, Secretary Samuel Wood, and Treasurer Daniel Jayasuria. It has 100% been a team effort from day one on all fronts, and there is no way that we could have done it without each other. Thank you to each of you for your service to your class. As we begin the next chapter in our lives, please remember what brought you into this great profession, and remember the opportunity that we have been given and the duty that comes with it. Continue to have that contagious energy and passion for improving the lives of your patients, your communities, and for moving forward into the future of medicine. I'll leave you with the same goal that I have for myself. Learn something new every day and be the light that you want to see in people. Thank you. Go Herd.
Thank you, David. I am pleased to invite Marshall University President Dr. Jerome Gilbert to the podium for his opening remarks.
Good afternoon. I want to add my warm welcome to that of others to this 2021 graduation and investiture ceremony for our School of Medicine. As the festivities continue today and throughout the weekend, I hope that you will take a moment to reflect upon your education here at Marshall, and particularly this last year of your education. I'm certain that this time last year, you were worried about how the fourth year of medical school would progress. As president, I can tell you that I spent many sleepless nights worried about your health and safety and that of the other students at Marshall. Your dean, your faculty, and your staff have all felt the heavy responsibilities as they work to determine how to move forward in the midst of a pandemic. It was in every way a chaotic time for all of us, and yet here you are today, standing on the threshold of your graduation as a Doctor of Medicine. As I look over this past year, I'm struck that persistence, dedication, flexibility, and creativity have been threaded together to help you accomplish this outstanding achievement. As your class president said, this graduating class has accomplished a terrific milestone in marking a 100% match rate for residency, and I think that deserves a round of applause. I was a faculty member early in my career in the medical school, and I participated in the interviews, and I know all about the match process, so I know that that is a tremendous accomplishment. Many of you have reached an even greater individual milestone, like matching into extremely competitive residencies and securing high-profile fellowships. I understand that this graduating class includes 8 individuals graduating with a perfect 4.0, and we're going to recognize our first MD, PhD graduate this evening. Finally, even during a pandemic year, your class has logged thousands of community service hours, as was just mentioned, helping others through a very stressful and difficult time. I know a lot of you pitched in the COVID response, and I saw many of you working with the Marshall Medical Outreach on Saturday mornings. The whole university is grateful for your accomplishments and also for your service. It's been a tremendous effort on your part, and we're very, very grateful. I share these accomplishments because I think it shows that even in the midst of one of the most trying times in your lives, great success is possible. I encourage you to remain flexible and open to change, as life is not always clean and orderly. It can often be messy and unpredictable and wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that you will remember this past year and your medical school years for the lessons they taught you about struggle and success. For what is the glory of the mountaintop without the depth of the valley? Congratulations to the class of 2021. You certainly earned this recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. I now invite Dr. Robert Cure, class of 1998, and President of the School of Medicine Alumni Association, to the podium to recognize the School of Medicine Alumni Association's 2021 honorary alumnus.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I want to congratulate our newest graduates and wish you well as you begin the next phase of your medical journey. It is my distinct privilege as president of the Marshall University Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine Alumni Association to recognize this year's honorary alumnus. This evening, we honor someone who has devoted the past 4 decades to the Marshall University School of Medicine, training generations of physicians and building a healthcare community in Huntington. During his nearly 23-year tenure as the 4th dean of the medical school, we became a robust, thriving institution. Marshall University's health science footprint more than tripled in size. These educational, clinical, and research facilities sparked development of new specialty service lines like orthopedic surgery and neuroscience. They also led to new residency and fellowship training programs. Our honorees' strategic leadership and relationships with the medical school's partner hospitals helped Huntington become a healthcare destination. A board-certified diagnostic radiologist and radiation oncologist, our honoree was also instrumental in bringing translational research to Marshall University. In 2011, the school dedicated its Translational Genomic Research Institute in his honor. As one of the longest-serving medical school deans in the United States, he embraced philanthropy and personally worked with the Edwards family, and particularly Mrs. Joan Edwards, whose generous support ultimately resulted in the renaming of the medical school in 2000. As a trustee of the Joan C. Edwards Charitable Trust, he continues to direct significant scholarship support to our medical students. As a medical student during the deanship of our honorary alumnus, I clearly remember his emphasis on the mission of educating primary care physicians. I also recall all the awards and accolades bestowed upon the School of Medicine for the number of primary care physicians we trained. When I attended medical school, the dean was like royalty to us. The dean was like a king. Growing up in rural southern West Virginia, I may have disappointed him a bit by not becoming one of those primary care physicians. But I hope I made him proud by following in his footsteps and becoming a radiologist. Our honorary alumnus has been recognized many times over for his tireless service to the medical profession and the community. But we hope he knows how grateful we are for his leadership and commitment to Marshall University, our School of Medicine, and the great state of West Virginia. On behalf of the School of Medicine Alumni Association, I could not be more pleased to recognize Dr. Charles McCowan as the 2021 Marshall University Joan C. Edwards School of Medicine honorary alumnus, and truly a son of Marshall.
Thank you, Dr. Cure. Congratulations, Dr. McCowan. I am honored to introduce one of our esteemed alumni to deliver this year's keynote address to the class of 2021. From an early age, growing up in Elkins, West Virginia, Dr. C. Douglas Phillips knew he wanted to be a doctor, inspired early on by his family physician. He attended the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado under the military medical program in 1977, following high school graduation. When the military medical program was discontinued, he moved to Marshall University to complete his undergraduate degree and was accepted to Marshall's School of Medicine in 1980. Dr. Phillips was awarded a Regents Bachelor's of Arts degree during his first year of medical school and graduated with his Doctorate of Medicine in 1984. He completed a residency in diagnostic radiology at the University of Virginia in 1988 and served as academic chief resident. He went on to complete a 2-year fellowship in diagnostic neuroradiology at the University of Virginia in 1990, and he was hired as a faculty neuroradiologist and assistant professor upon completion of his fellowship. In 2000, Dr. Phillips was promoted to a full professor and named the director of the Division of Neuroradiology, vice chair of finance for the Department of Radiology, and director of the Neuroradiology Fellowship Program. Dr. Phillips left UVA in 2009 for New York and is currently a professor of radiology and the director of head and neck imaging at Weill Cornell Medical College and New York Presbyterian Hospital. He has received teaching awards at UVA and at Weill Cornell, been a visiting professor at numerous institutions across the country, and is currently the head and neck senior editor for the American Journal of Neuroradiology. He is also the recipient of the 2021 Gold Medal of the American Society of Head and Neck Radiology. He has authored more than 100 academic publications and more than 75 book chapters, review articles, and online publications. In addition, he holds an editorial positions for a number of journals, has delivered more than 250 invited lectures in the U.S. and internationally, and is an active member of numerous medical societies. He is also a past president of the American Society of Head and Neck Radiology. In summary, Dr. C. Douglas Phillips has been a practicing neuroradiologist for nearly 35 years. He has traveled the world over, sharing his research findings and working to further academic medicine. His passion and drive for medicine and teaching, along with a healthy dose of West Virginia work ethic, are the values instilled by his parents that paved his professional path, and we are honored to have him back in Huntington with us this evening. He shared with me earlier that the last time he was in this building, he was at an AC/DC concert. Please welcome Dr. Phillips to the podium.
Wow, y'all good. That's a true story too, AC/DC. All right. This is a little nerve-wracking for me, so pardon me. I speak at large groups and in front of some pretty large audiences, but there's something pretty special about this occasion, about this evening, and about this event for me. So let's begin. President Gilbert, Dean Miller, Dean Smith, Dean Sundrum, Dr. Cure, Dr. McCown, soon to be Dr. Bartlett, distinguished and honored guests, friends of the Marshall University School of Medicine, graduates, families, friends. My wife is sitting back in the back row. Greetings from Elkins, West Virginia, my hometown, and from Midtown Manhattan, where I now reside. It is an incredible honor to be here and to speak at my alma mater at a school that I dearly and truly love, among people, many of whom I still regard as close friends. That's kind of the way it is. Graduates, I'd love to say to you all that I can distinctly remember it. It seems like yesterday when I was in your place, but that would be a lie, and I don't want to start off that way with you. So I will be truthful. It was a while ago. A little backstory to me accepting this invitation. When my medical school class graduated, we were a good bit smaller than you all. We debated on who we'd like to have to speak for all the events of graduation weekend. And we settled on a best case scenario, worst case scenario kind of thing. That made sense. So for the investiture for best case, we chose to invite Dr. Samuel Shem. That's not his real name. The author of The House of God. It was a book that we had all read over and over again through medical school. We had kind of taken it to heart. Maybe you all have read it as well. And in fact, we imagined we had very little hope of getting Dr. Shem to come and speak. He was ensconced in Boston, busy clinical practice, also doing academic material, undoubtedly involved in some things that were pretty heavy. And indeed, he initially said no. But we were perseverant, and we knew through a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend that he had a weakness for golf. And through contacts here at the school and in the state of West Virginia, we were able to supply him with a weekend golf adventure at the Greenbrier, as well as a round of golf with some of the royalty at the Greenbrier Golf Course after speaking at Investiture. And he relented, and he came. He was pretty much as we expected. He entertained us. He related things to the observations that were in his book. After the speech, he was very warm and friendly, and we all thought very highly of him afterwards. I will not relate our worst-case scenario to you. What I will say to you as a protection to my own fragile ego is I am hoping that I am not filling the role of your worst-case scenario. I hope that you find these remarks of interest. As a simple fact, I guess I am qualified to speak to you about graduation, having accomplished it myself. First and primarily, to you all, congratulations. And I am very heartfelt in saying that to you. Medical school is one of those things that you have to experience directly. There's no reading stories or books that can allow someone to live through the event short of being there and participating in it. You all finished. The volume of material that you have labored to memorize, the hours you spent at the hospital, the work you did, the write-ups that you worried over, the retractors that you held while missing the whole point of the operation. Because it's hard to see from the other side of the table, right? The time that you invested, the sporadic laughter and occasional tears that have accompanied your time in medical school are now at an end. You made it, and congratulations. As for the families, lots of you all out there, the fear that you might never get this human being back again can temporarily subside. And I'm sorry I did say temporarily because it is a temporary nature. You're going to lose them again because there are more hurdles. This was a big one, though. This was massive. I would actually ask at this point that the graduates acknowledge this parallel pain and suffering of their families by rising, facing them, and giving them a round of applause. Thank you very much. And families, that's very heartfelt too. So here we are, the culmination of 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears to become a physician, and you're sitting here and you're wearing this academic regalia, and it's a little warm and uncomfortable. I wanted to keep my remarks short, and I'm sure you're going to appreciate that. What's my topic? Sometimes the event is the topic. I read a lot of history, and I've been reading a lot about Gettysburg, and the Gettysburg Address, that whole thing happened just a few months after the battle, and it was decided that they would commemorate the battleground as a cemetery. They chose an orator, Edward Everett from Massachusetts, to give the primary address, and at the last moment, essentially, they asked Lincoln if he would come, and he was actually cautioned. Can you imagine this? They cautioned the President of the United States to be brief and no levity. He pulled off the Gettysburg Address. Everett was so taken by the President's remarks. His remarks, by the way, were 2 hours. Lincoln's remarks were about 2.5 minutes. The photographer had not got positioned to take his picture. Many people in the audience didn't even know he had started speaking yet. Everett, who was a gracious man, came up to Lincoln afterwards and said, I should flatter myself to think that I could have been as accurate and as adherent to the central idea of the occasion in 2 hours as you were in 2 minutes. The central occasion here obviously is joy. This is over, right? And you've conquered. So I think this talk is essentially joy. And Dr. Bartlett kind of wandered into the territory I'd like to be a little bit, and that's fine. We did not talk beforehand. But let's recall medical school. Let's kind of go through it and think about it in terms of how it kind of was presented to you. And I'll embellish with a few stories as we go along. So first off, Chapter 1, admissions. I refused to join a club that would have me as a member. Thus spoke the great philosopher Groucho Marx. As a career goal, as a chance at helping your fellow man, perhaps as a long shot, you decided you wanted to have entrance to this club to be a physician. You did the work and you got in. Now, what I would ask you is please remember what you were doing or what was happening the moment that you heard that you had been accepted. So here's my first brief story. I was home in Elkins, West Virginia for the summer. I received the call from Cindy Warren, who was then the contact person from the director as the admissions office. I was standing at a small kitchen counter in a very small home in Elkins, West Virginia. There's a little breakfast counter and a workspace, and we had some high stools around the counter. I picked up the phone, started to listen to it, and by my mother's recollection, I screamed and jumped up onto a bar stool and scraped my head on the ceiling. I didn't fall. Now, how I made that jump, I have no idea. I could not do that again today. The pre-med experience, as you all know, can sometimes be kind of a linear shot to where you want to go, but one of the very beautiful things I think about medicine currently is that we've started to accept different pathways of students into medical school, and I am firmly in favor of that. Those classmates who have a different trajectory are kind of like some of the spice of the stew of a medical class, and you appreciate that. We had EMTs, nurses, musicians, some jocks, and we also had people who were just head down, I'm going to medical school. And we had a wonderful class. It's unlikely that all of you are best friends, but you have shared this experience together, and it will flavor the rest of your lives. And what I would ask you is to please celebrate together, keep in touch, and remain friends. Second, the non-clinical work. Dr. Bartlett touched on some of this as well. Here's a little challenge for you. I'd ask you to pull out the textbook from your least favorite medical school class. Appreciate the size and the heft of that book. Think of the material contained within it, and a lot of it is basic walking around knowledge that you need as a physician. But we can all understand and agree that a lot of it is also pretty arcane stuff. But you learned all that. You memorized it. Maybe it was difficult to get through, but you accomplished it. You pulled it together and you passed those classes. So brief story number 2, Dr. Pat Brown, who taught histology to many medical school classes at this institution, he did the MICE class as well, and during histology I was not doing very well. In fact, I thought histology was completely unrelated to anything I would ever do again, and I couldn't really get it, but my grade was fluttering down below that kind of acceptable, maybe not going to get through kind of level. And Dr. Brown had like a little come to Dr. Brown moment with me, and he said, if you pull your grade up on the final, if you make an A on the final, I'll give you an A for the class. Now, as I recall, I needed an A to pass. But I worked with my colleagues and classmates, and they helped me, and I got through, and I got an A. Now, how I did that, I don't know, and no one in the whole world was happier than me, except perhaps my classmates who had helped me through, because it did look pretty bleak. You all have done the same. You've helped each other, you've pulled each other up when you needed it, and you conquered. Third, Chapter 3, the clinical work. The changes in medical curricula that we're all seeing, I appreciate. Blending the clinical, non-clinical years is happening at many institutions. I see that and I understand it. No matter how you approach it, the traditional or some hybrid theme, the two are both directly related and about as unrelated as anything could possibly be. So talking to patients, working on the floors, going to the OR, in the ED, clinic time, lifting shirts and listening to hearts and lungs, that's different than standing around, reading a book, sitting on the lounge, trying to get through another couple chapters. So brief story number 3. My first clinical rotation here was at the Huntington VA Hospital, and it was very different in that era. But my first rotation was internal medicine. In that era, I will tell you that medical students were cheap labor. We were everything. We drew bloods, we started IVs, we did LPs, and whatever else we were trusted to do. We were the jack of all trades, the worker bees. We did everything. I loved it. I flourished in that environment. It just made me happy. And I worked with some incredibly dedicated attending physicians, residents, fellows, nursing staff, technologists, and technicians who wanted to take care of patients. And that, to me, was wonderful. One thing changed that whole event, however, and that was they gave me a beeper. The beeper was one of those things that started to change my mind about medicine. Beeper's your friend until it's not your friend anymore. You want to sit down and eat some lunch? Nope. The beeper says you need to call the floor. Quick tip to the bathroom, well, you can go, but you're not alone. The beeper says you need to call the floor again. Ready to head out, go home, maybe thinking about what you're going to do. Trivia night tonight? Nope, beeper's calling you back to the hospital. I've long since traded in my beeper. I now have a cell phone, and it turns out it's way worse than a beeper. Fourth, graduation, and that's the end, and that's where we are here now. My parents came to my graduation, as many of your folks have as well. I joked with my father then that it was literally the first time I'd seen him smile nonstop for 3 days. My mother cried, and unfortunately that made me cry too, and that's fine. These few days are going to be a blur. And the analogy to me is always like you're driving on the interstate. You know, in West Virginia, I could probably up the speed here, maybe 90 miles an hour, and you're looking for a signpost, and you blast past it, and you don't even have a chance to read it. And you think that was probably it, but you're not sure. So here's my advice. Slow down. These ceremonies are for you. Enjoy them. Smile a lot. And here's an important little piece of advice. So every once in a while, do that little Zen thing where you just kind of like take it all in, the sights, the smells, the sounds, everything, encapsulate that so you can return to this, because you'll want to. Now, in the last phase of this little talk, I'd like to talk about some topics that I think are of interest to you now or will become more of interest to you in the next weeks and months as you start working in the hospital. We're all very lucky to be sitting here, and I know everyone appreciates that, and I've heard about your volunteer work, and that's outstanding. We're basically healthy and well, and we are really here. I can see you. This is not Zoom windows. You're there. And that's a wonderful thing. We're not hearing that, you're on mute. This is really wonderful, right? I mean, here we are, and the mask, yes, but the masks are going to go away as well. The thing is, this last year of medical school will be indelibly imprinted in your brain, and that's okay. Leave it there and benefit from it. We have lived through what is a nearly unthinkable event. Our entire system, not healthcare, but living, our economic system, our lifestyle, was nearly turned upside down. As you know, I work in New York City. My office and my hospital are on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. I have a really nice office. I have a view out over the East River looking into Queens. And I also have a side view of the emergency department. And there's a parking lot there. And April through August of 2020, there were refrigerated trucks in that lot. And I think you all know what those refrigerated trucks were there for. And if you'd have talked to me in the year 2019 and said that's going to be your view in the next year or so, I would have thought you were certifiable. But that's kind of like what happened. It was really bad. The impromptu cheers that you have read about probably or even saw on the TV from New York citizens at 7 o'clock at night were cheering and heartening, but they were not curative. My wife and I were afraid and alert to everything. Hugs were dangerous, shaking hands were dangerous, subways were dangerous, meeting people on the street was dangerous. As a radiologist, I was very lucky that I could work some of my time away, remotely, but I still had to come to the hospital. And those visits to the hospital weren't that visit to the place that I love and cherish going to, but it was more like going to a toxic waste dump. PPEs, scrubbing the keyboards, temperature checks, fear of everything, fear of patients and of your colleagues, and repetitive COVID tests. Yet here we are. I think that you should all be proud to be a member of the field that has seen to it that we can now return to some normalcy. That's a wonderful thing. A little line from Breaking Bad, science, it works. Science works. My field particularly relies on technology, and a 7 Tesla MR scanner, I couldn't have envisioned that 40 years ago, but the physicists and engineers who I work with in my field did see it, and now it exists, and we use it. I was very fortunate in my career to be involved in the early testing and development of MR. Now it's just commonplace, and it's an amazing thing. Early neuroradiologists, people in my field, were actually happy to be able to do an invasive, risky test and just be able to tell a surgeon that a lesion was in the frontal lobe and not the temporal lobe. Or maybe that a lesion in the spine was in the spinal cord and not outside it. Now I'm having to learn the muscles of facial expression because my non-invasive imaging studies routinely show me that degree of anatomic detail. And my clinicians want to hear that. Molecular imaging shows us cell metabolism. Medicine moves really fast. It's dizzying how fast medicine is. My advice to you, next piece of advice, keep up. Your patients are going to call you on it with a Google search. Brief word about your movement into the world and residency and fellowship training. I always wanted to be a radiologist. That much was clear from the mid-portion of my 4th year. Dr. McCown is a small part of that. The match program, as you know, is voodoo. They cast the chicken bones, and I ended up at UVA. And I was ecstatic. But at UVA, I was there with people from Yale, Harvard, University of California, San Francisco, high-powered schools, major medical centers, major medical schools. After my residency, I wanted to do a fellowship, and the fellowship program I chose in neuroradiology was a very sought-after training program. I got it. I've now had jobs at places that I wanted to work, and I am now, as you've heard, at New York Presbyterian, Weill Cornell Medical Center. It is a top 10 U.S. hospital, and I'm very proud to be there. Be proud of your training here, and please, please take this away from you today. Know that you can work with anyone in the world. You have the same fund of information that anyone you will ever work with. Hard work, that West Virginia work ethic is not a bad thing. You can do it. It's going to be fun, and I think it's going to be easy. You're actually going to have an advantage in that you've had more time and personal attention to your development than people in many of those very large medical schools. That's a wonderful factor here. You know the focus of this school on primary care and training physicians to work in West Virginia, and I am wholeheartedly in support of that, but I feel that Marshall University School of Medicine graduates can and should end up anywhere, including New York City. In fact, we need more of you in New York City because we need larger attendance for Marshall football and basketball games at Dillon's. Dillon's is 36th Street and Madison Avenue, and it's a sports bar that caters to MU. So look me up when you're there. Allow me to be just a tad bit philosophical here. I want you to feel really great about today. I want you to feel great about what you've accomplished, what you've planned, what you'll be. You know, as Dr. Seuss says, oh, the places you'll go, and you will, clearly. But remember where you're from. Remember this place. Keep a bit of this place in you. Help the school later when you can. Little word here, do not throw away all of the mailings from the Marshall University School of Medicine Alumni Association. One item that I am quite proud of in this is I created a scholarship in my mother and father's honor. I am very, very happy that I was able to accomplish that. For sure, if you'd like to contribute to it, Mrs. Holmes would be happy to take your tax-deductible donation. But pay it forward, right? That's part of the deal. Medical students train pre-med students. Residents train medical students. It flows downhill. Be a part of that. I would like to think that I've been able to keep a piece of Marshall and of West Virginia in my soul, and the fact is you can't entirely get rid of a hillbilly. Still feels good to visit this place. I like to gaze at the Memorial Fountain. I like to walk around Huntington. I love Ritter Park. Fact is, also, life is very short. So this weekend, take the time and chill. Smell the flowers. Dr. McCown, former dean of this medical school, was an early mentor for me. He was the first radiologist I actually worked with. I loved being in the room with him, putting on a lead apron for the first time in my life, to maybe watch a barium study. I watched him take consults on the fly from clinicians who brought films to him. They always had the expectation that he would tell them what was wrong with their patient, and he very often did. He worked hard, but here's my point. He also liked to get out and enjoy his time off, be with his friends. When I decided on radiology as a career, when I went to UVA, Dr. McCown kept in touch with me, he helped me out, and I still consider him a valued advisor. Very few people in life have enjoyed their time off as much as Dr. McCown. And I think I value that life lesson as much as any that I have had. So take that extra time, do something non-medical. I recommend reading history, but you know, that's just me. Play with your kids, go out for dinner with friends, learn to do something that you don't do now. Pick anything. Play some poker, travel, watch a movie. You all have individually proven that you can be very goal-oriented and you can achieve a measure of individual greatness. And again, congratulations to you. I am now here to tell you to veg out a little bit. chillax, have some fun. That's perfectly appropriate. Finally, my last remark in closing, I'd like to just say this to you. Remember that patients are why that we as physicians exist. They all matter. Listen to them, help them when you can, and smile when you're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. On behalf of the class of 2021, I would like to present you with a token of their appreciation.
Thank you.
Because of the conditions and the masks and the social distancing, we're doing some of this a little bit out of order. So I would ask that President Gilbert and Dr. Sundram join me at the podium for the conferring of the degrees. Class of 2021, please stand. President Gilbert, Dr. Sundram, and I now present to you the Marshall University Jones C. Edwards School of Medicine Class of 2021.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty and the administration, and by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Marshall University Board of Governors in the state of West Virginia, I hereby confer upon you the doctoral degree that you have earned with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Students, please remain standing. Every year, the graduating class selects one student as its Peer Choice Award winner. The Peer Choice Award is presented to the graduating medical student who, in the opinion of his or her classmates, epitomizes the ideal physician. This student not only possesses the knowledge and skills of a talented physician, but also the characteristics of compassion, caring, empathy, altruism, and kindness. The 2021 recipient of this award is Dr. Drake Sakuro. Dr. Sakuro will come to the podium or come to the microphone and lead the class of 2021 in the recitation of the Oath of Hippocrates.
Before I start, I want to thank the class for selecting me. You all are some of the best people I know, so it means a great deal to me. I also want to thank the McCorkle family for bettering the med school every day. Let's do this. I swear by all I hold most sacred that according to my ability and judgment, I will keep this oath and this stipulation. That I will be loyal to the profession of medicine and just and generous to its members. That I will lead my life in practice, my art in uprightness and honor. That into whatsoever home I shall enter, it shall be for the good of the sick and the well to the utmost of my power. And that I will hold myself aloft from wrong and corruption and from tempting to vice. That I will exercise my art solely for the care of my patients and the prevention of disease. And will give no drugs and perform no operations for a criminal purpose and far less suggest such thing. That whatsoever I shall see or hear of the lives of men which is not fitting to be spoken, I will keep inviolably secret. While I continue to keep this oath inviolate, may it be granted to me to enjoy life and practice the art respected by all men in all times. But should I trespass and violate this oath, may the reverse be my lot. Thank you all. God bless and go Herd.
Thank you, Dr. Sakuro. Medical students, you may now be seated. MD, PhD, and PhD candidates, please remain standing and approach the podium. I now invite Dr. Uma Sundram, Vice Dean of Research and Graduate Education, to the podium for recognition and hooding of the biomedical research doctoral graduates.
Thank you, Bobby. President Gilbert, Dean McCowan, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure and privilege to present to you this year's Biomedical Sciences Doctor of Philosophy candidates. Assistant Dean Eggleton will be hooding each of the candidates as they come by. The first candidate is Adam Michael Belcher. Adam's mentor is Dr. Wei Li. His dissertation thesis is role of thymidine phosphorylase in type 2 diabetes associated high-risk thrombosis. Adam will be doing his postdoctoral fellowship at the Marshall University School of Pharmacy. Congratulations, Adam. Richard, what do we do with it? The next candidate is Sarah Elizabeth Brunty. Sarah's mentor is Dr. Nalini Santana. The dissertation thesis is targeting epigenetic mechanisms in endometriosis. Sarah will be doing her postdoctoral training at the Marshall University School of Medicine. The next candidate is Shreya Tapan Mukherjee. Shreya's mentor is Sandrine Pierre. The dissertation thesis is role of sodium potassium ATPase non-enzymatic signaling in renal proximal tubule sodium transport. She'll be doing her postdoctoral fellowship at the Marshall Institute of Interdisciplinary Research. Congratulations. The next candidate is Sarah Elizabeth Stevens. Sarah's mentor is Shekhar Mohan. The dissertation is CryptoBench, Understanding Neonatal Opioid Withdrawal Syndrome using a novel rodent model. She has a faculty position at the Liberty University. Congratulations. Finally, I'm delighted and proud to present our first combined Doctor of Medicine and Doctor of Philosophy candidate. As you all know, the combined MD-PhD program is the truest representation of translational medicine, translational research, and it's only fitting that the gentleman who our institute is honored by name, Dr. McCowan, is also here for this today, and this is our very first graduate of the translational medicine MD-PhD program, Dean McCowan. With that, I'm proud to present Nicholas Anthony Bacon as the candidate. Nick did his dissertation with Winston Solars, and the dissertation title is Crippling Rapid Evolution of Metastasis, Efflux Drug Resistance in Non-Small Lung Cell Cancer with Clinically Relevant HSP Inhibitor. Nick will be continuing his postdoctoral training as a resident in internal medicine at Washington University's Barnes-Jewish Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. Congratulations, Nick.
We will now proceed with the investiture of the hoods for the medical education program. The class of 2021 was asked to select a faculty member to serve as their honorary hooder in these difficult times. They selected Dr. Adrienne Mays Kingston. Dr. Mays Kingston is a graduate of the class of 2009, an associate professor of family medicine, and the medical director of our Clinical Skills Center. Students, please rise and approach the stage. As the students approach the stage, Miss Amy Smith, Associate Dean of Student Affairs, will be introducing them. After being hooded, students will return to their chairs and be seated.
Dr. Timothy Christopher Atkins. Dr. Atkins will begin his internal medicine residency at West Virginia University in Morgantown, West Virginia. Dr. Haley J. Alberts. Dr. Alberts will begin her emergency medicine residency at Prisma Health, University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. Dr. Corey Alexander Alley. Dr. Alley will begin his internal medicine residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Kara Verena Anderson. Dr. Anderson will begin her pediatrics residency at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Dr. Hannah Brooke Acebes. Dr. Acebes will begin her pediatrics residency at Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Dr. Mercy Uludalapa Babatape. Dr. Babatape will begin her internal medicine residency at Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Dr. Nicholas Anthony Bacon. Dr. Bacon will begin his internal medicine residency at Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. Dr. Nathan Allen Baston. Dr. Baston will begin his neurology residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. David Edward Bartlett. Dr. Bartlett will begin his surgery preliminary residency at University of North Carolina Hospitals, followed by diagnostics radiology at University of North Carolina Hospitals, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Dr. Colin Michael Burke. Dr. Burke will begin his internal medicine residency at Christ Hospital in Cincinnati, Ohio. Dr. Megan Mary Carter. Dr. Carter will begin her obstetrics and gynecology residency at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Dr. Zachary Lahorn Casto. Dr. Casto will begin his family medicine residency at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio. Dr. Muntasir Hassan Chowdhury. Dr. Chowdhury will begin his internal medicine residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Thank you, Ms. Dr. Matthew John Sakata. Dr. Sinkata will begin his obstetrics and gynecology residency at Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, South Carolina. Dr. Amanda Renee Clark. Dr. Clark will begin her internal medicine residency at St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri. Dr. Carly Ann Clark. Dr. Clark will begin her otolaryngology residency at University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. Dr. Kevin Allen Clark. Dr. Clark will begin his anesthesiology residency at University of Florida Shands Hospital in Gainesville, Florida. Dr. Sarah Leafin Cole. Dr. Cole will begin her medicine psychiatry residency at Charleston Area Medical Center in Charleston, West Virginia. Dr. Ryan Frost Cooper. Dr. Cooper will begin his psychiatry residency at University of Maryland Medical Center in Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. Madison Nicole Crank. Dr. Crank will begin her transitional year residency at Ohio Health Riverside Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, followed by diagnostics radiology at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Dr. Hannah Rose Datz. Dr. Datz will begin her pediatrics medical genetics residency in Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Jordan Nicole Deaver. Dr. Deaver will begin her family medicine residency at In His Image St. John's Hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Dr. Samuel Pinkston Dungan. Dr. Dungan will begin his internal medicine residency at Penn State Health Hershey Medical Center, Hershey, Pennsylvania. Dr. Benjamin Jordan Freire. Dr. Freire will begin his internal medicine residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Ife Fuwape. Dr. Fuwape will begin her pathology residency at Duke University Medical Center in Durham, North Carolina. Dr. Alexandra Mariah Gillespie. Dr. Gillespie will begin her general surgery residency at St. Elizabeth's Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Dr. Sydney Marie Graham. Dr. Graham will begin her obstetrics and gynecology residency at Ochsner Clinic Foundation in New Orleans, Louisiana. Dr. Madison Michelle Griffiths. Dr. Griffiths will begin her family medicine residency at St. Elizabeth Medical Center in Edgewood, Kentucky. Dr. Angela Maria Heichel. Dr. Heichel will begin her pediatrics residency at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Dr. William Anthony Hayes. Dr. Hayes will begin his obstetrics and gynecology residency at Penn State Health, Hershey Medical Center in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Dr. Cooper Patrick Henderson. Dr. Henderson will begin his psychiatry residency at Prisma Health, University of South Carolina in Greer, South Carolina. Dr. Harsha Subin Iyer. Dr. Iyer will begin his family medicine residency at Ohio State University Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Daniel Sahan Jayasuriya. Dr. Jayasuriya will begin his medicine pediatrics residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Samuel Aaron Kaplan. Dr. Kaplan will begin his emergency medicine residency at University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. Dr. Shafali Khanna. Dr. Khanna will begin her general surgery residency at Charleston Area Medical Center in Charleston, West Virginia. Dr. Timothy Marziel Coer. Dr. Coer will begin his general surgery residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Nicholas Wayne Lehman. Dr. Lehman will begin his neurology residency at Walter Reed National Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Dr. Hannah Rochelle Laporte. Dr. Laporte will begin her family medicine residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Jesse Charles Lewis. Dr. Lewis will begin his pediatrics residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Lonnie Kent Lucas. Dr. Lucas will begin his psychiatry residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Jet Anthony McPherson. Dr. McPherson will begin his emergency medicine residency at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Dr. Evan Michael McClanahan. Dr. McClanahan will begin his family medicine residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Colin Elliott McCorkle. Dr. McCorkle will begin his otolaryngology residency at University of Nebraska in Omaha, Nebraska. Dr. Richard Benjamin Miller. Dr. Miller will begin his neurology residency at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Dr. Ibrahim Elaji Muhammad. Dr. Muhammad will begin his pediatrics residency at University of North Carolina Hospitals in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Dr. David Carl Lee Mounts. Dr. Mounts will begin his anesthesiology residency at Walter Reed National Medical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. Dr. Noor Moazaham. Dr. Moazaham will begin her medicine preliminary residency at Virginia Commonwealth University Health Systems, followed by neurology at Virginia Commonwealth University Health Systems in Richmond, Virginia. Dr. Caitlin Marie Mulvihill. Dr. Mulvihill will begin her emergency medicine residency at Charleston Area Medical Center in Charleston, West Virginia. Dr. Cecilia Mary Neese. Dr. Neese will begin her psychiatry residency at Kaiser Permanente in Oakland, California. Dr. Nicholas Joseph Ellison Newell. Dr. Newell will begin his emergency medicine residency at Eisenhower Medical Center, Ranchero Mirage, California. Dr. Katina K. Nikolodakis. Dr. Nikolodakis will begin her anesthesiology residency at University of Kentucky Medical Center in Lexington, Kentucky. Dr. Catherine Marie Parks. Dr. Parks will begin her general surgery at Ascension St. John's Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Ranavaya II. Dr. Ranavaya will begin his general surgery residency at University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. Dr. Jonathan William Ray. Dr. Ray will begin his general surgery residency at Ohio Health Riverside Methodist in Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Kayla Suzanne Rodriguez. Dr. Rodriguez will begin her pediatrics residency at Monforte Medical Center, Einstein Campus in Bronx, New York. Dr. Benjamin Todd Russell. Dr. Russell will begin his pediatrics residency at Virginia Commonwealth University Health Systems in Richmond, Virginia. Dr. Muhammad Sakal. Dr. Sakal will begin his internal medicine residency at Charleston Area Medical Center in Charleston, West Virginia. Dr. Matthew Stephen Shoddy. Dr. Shoddy will begin his medicine pediatric residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Callie Hope Seaman. Dr. Seaman will begin her family medicine residency at Walter Reed Military Medical Center in Fort Belvoir, Virginia. Dr. Drake Anthony Securo. Dr. Securo will begin his internal medicine residency at University of Cincinnati Medical Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. Dr. Amy Lee Smith. Dr. Smith will begin her obstetrics and gynecology residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Samantha Ann Smith. Dr. Smith will begin her pediatrics residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Scott Taylor Thiesfeld. Dr. Thiesfeld will begin his internal medicine residency at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Dr. Dominic Gordon Thomas. Dr. Thomas will begin his internal medicine residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Allison Catherine Thompson. Dr. Thompson will begin her obstetrics gynecology residency at Lacanau Medicine Center in Wynwood, Pennsylvania. Dr. Landon Drew Thompson. Dr. Thompson will begin his ophthalmology residency at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Dr. Rachel Lee Wargacki. Dr. Wargacki will begin her orthopedic surgery residency at University Hospital in Jackson, Mississippi. Dr. Dylan Scott Weaver. Dr. Weaver will begin his emergency medicine residency at Vidant Medical Center, East Carolina University in Greenville, South Carolina. Dr. Rebecca Erin Wingfield. Dr. Wingfield will begin her pathology residency at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. Samuel Connor Wood. Dr. Wood will begin his orthopedic surgery residency at Prisma Health, University of South Carolina in Columbia, South Carolina. Dr. Amber Rochelle Wright. Dr. Wright will begin her obstetrics gynecology residency at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Dr. Christine Jinjin Yu. Dr. Yu will begin her pathology residency at Brown University Rhode Island Hospital in Providence, Rhode Island.
Class of 2021, please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Jones C. Edwards School of Medicine Class of 2021. Young doctors and guests, this concludes today's investiture. It has been an honor to be a part of your journey. For those of you leaving Huntington, we hope you always consider it your home away from home, and the School of Medicine your extended family. We wish each of you the best of luck on your professional path. Due to concerns for COVID, you will be dismissed by sections. First, the students and the faculty may exit out the back the way you came in, and you may do that now. The audience is asked to remain in their seats, and I will dismiss you by sections. You guys can go. Was it quick enough?